You dog! Damn it!
Welcome to the motherfucking We're covering today's top boxing news.
I'm feeling great. I'm really happy. I'm anxious. Es que no, diálogo, estoy tratando, I'm trying to speak English. But I'm really well prepared. I feel sharp. I feel strong, and I'm ready. I just want to get there and show to the fans a really great fight and bring a really good show to them.
This will be your first time fighting outside of Puerto Rico. Are you excited for that experience? Is that nerve-wracking at all?
So she's heard a lot about the UK crowd. She's excited to head over there. She loves going overseas, and she's very excited to bring a good show to the UK fans and show what she's got.
Very daunting assignment for the unbeaten up-and-comer from Puerto Rico, Stephanie Piñeiro, unbeaten, who will be challenging Lauren Price very soon for 3 of the 4 major titles in the welterweight division in what will be for her a night of firsts. Her very first world title fight, more than one world title on the line, and the first time she boxes outside of her native island of Puerto Rico. Can she handle this assignment? The odds makers would say no. The bookies are gonna have Lauren as the favorite. So what are the odds that Stephanie Piñeiro can upset the apple cart and upset Lauren Price, the reigning champion, who's very fast on her feet with fast hands, thus not giving you very many opportunities to land clean. Sporting an unblemished record of 9 wins with no losses and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts, just 1 belt away from becoming this division's next undisputed champion if she can finagle a Michaela Mayer fight. She will have to get through Stephanie first, who sports a professional record of 10 wins with no losses and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts, 35 years old to Lauren, who's 31. Both fighters are southpaws, leading with the right in order to set up the left. Even though both fighters got a similar number of fights, Lauren Price has been in there with the better fighters, and former undisputed champion Jessica McCaskill, former unified champion Natasha Jonas. So what are Stephanie's chances of upsetting the apple cart as the away fighter? What does she have to do? Well, what she has to do and what she's going to do are very different things. What she's got to do is use her size, because she's going to have a couple of inches on Lauren Price. She'll be a little bit taller, a little bit longer, maybe stronger, because Stephanie can punch, even though she doesn't have a lot of recorded knockouts if you've seen her. Nah, she hits hard. Being the taller, longer fighter, having longer legs makes for longer strides. Having longer arms affords Stephanie ring coverage that she doesn't need to be right up on Lauren to touch her with punches. And if she's busy stepping into those shots, being aggressive... What's ring coverage? It's the amount of ground a fighter can cover in the ring when they're on the move, based on their physical dimensions. A fighter with longer legs has longer strides, so they don't need to take that many steps before they're right on the target. Fighter with longer arms, they're covered. Those long arms, they can stick a jab out there, get their opponent to cover up so they can then move in safely, and before you know it, they're on top of the target. That's what ring coverage is. Stephanie's got it. Using that, and the fact that Lauren hasn't boxed since March of last year. The night of it will have been a little over a year's time since Lauren's last fight, allowing for ring rust to collect. If Stephanie is busy, and she's active, and she's aggressive, maybe she can fluster Lauren, make it a fight instead of a boxing match like Lauren Price is going to want to keep it. Lauren is very fast on her feet with very fast hands. The fastest, I think, anywhere at or around these weights, but she's not a brawler. She's not overzealous with her speed. She's fundamentally sound, defensively responsible. She's going to try to move on Stephanie. So what Stephanie's got to do is take it to her. Make it a fight. That's Stephanie's best bet, because what you're not going to do is go in there fencing and fiddling and feinting, winning that kind of fight against Lauren when she's got a noticeable speed advantage over you. It's not likely to work. You have to make it a brawl. That comes with its own catch-22, its own caveat. In previous instances, I've seen Stephanie Piñeiro hurt girls, get them on Queer Street, but fail to stop them because she gasses out, punches herself out. Chalk it up to inexperience. This is a fighter who in 10 professional fights has only fought in 10 rounders 2 times. So even if the right strategy is going in there and getting aggressive, if you empty the tank is empty. Thus, being prolific in the round, in the fight, while the best bet is not a fail-safe. Lauren Price is a quality operator, and so is Stephanie Piñeiro in many ways, but in many ways, the deck is stacked against her. And we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
What does this mean, Rick?
It gives Top Rank a new lease on life. They're, I had said they should have been observing, celebrating 60 years of boxing, March 29th, but they would be observing it. Well, I would say that this gives them a new lease on life. It's not anywhere near what the ESPN deal was. You're talking about 36 dates a year. Compare, in a $90 million budget to, if it's 10 shows a year and it averages $3 million a show, it's $30 million a year for 10 shows. It's, I don't think it's an exclusive deal is the good part for Top Rank. But their backs were against the wall. They did what they had to do.
Rick Glacier is spot on. A $30 million budget, if that is what DAZN is providing Top Rank with, is a lot less than the $90 million they were getting on ESPN per year for a good number of years. But because the DAZN deal doesn't appear to be an exclusive deal, that gives Top Rank the opportunity to work with other broadcasters to then make up the difference. According to veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael, Bob Arum's company has a new home, but an agreement with a second broadcaster is also in talks, which is what I've been telling you. Per the inside intel I've been given, Top Rank could very well return to the ESPN platform under a different deal structure. But that's the story. In his recent Substack article, Dan Raphael said Top Rank's deal with DAZN is non-exclusive, but it will mean DAZN will add Top Rank events to a menu that already includes exclusivity with 2 of the world's other leading promoters, Matchroom Boxing, which finalized a 5-year contract extension in February, and Queensberry, which signed a multi-year deal to move to DAZN in April of last year. DAZN also had a long-term deal with Golden Boy, but it expired in December, although they have done 2 one-off events and are continuing to discuss a new deal. While Top Rank and DAZN have wrapped up their deal, the negotiations having intensified over the last few weeks, Top Rank remains in talks with ESPN about a possible return. One source said that despite Top Rank's exit from the network last July, they've remained on friendly terms and have been talking for the past couple of months through Creative Artists Agency, the same agency that negotiated on Top Rank's behalf for the recently expired contract. If a new deal with ESPN is made, it likely will mean fewer events than the tonnage the previous agreement called for, but with an emphasis on bigger fights, one source said. 10 to 12 dates on DAZN, maybe 10 to 12 more on ESPN, and you're back in the mix, you're back in the game. Despite having no partner for the past 7 months and having put on only one show of its own, Xander Zayas' split decision over Abbas Baru to unify junior middleweight titles in Puerto Rico on January 31st, the company has managed to keep its fighters busy, paying to put prospects on a variety of smaller cards across the country. It also collaborated with a longtime ally, Zanfer Promotions, one of Mexico's leading promoters, on a show, and worked with Canada's Eye of the Tiger on another. Top Rank also utilized its Top Rank Classics Fast channel to air some live events of its fighters that they were involved in, including Zayas versus Baru. For some of Top Rank's bigger name fighters, it has made deals to have them fight on Ring Magazine cards on DAZN, and also did a pair of world title fights with Matchroom Boxing on DAZN. Emmanuel Navarrete's 11th round knockout of Eduardo Nunez, the unified junior lightweight titles on February 28th, and IBF lightweight champion. Raymond Murataya's majority decision win over mandatory challenger Andy Cruz on January 24th. Over the last 7 months, Top Rank released some of its fighters, did not offer contract extensions to others with expiring deals, and laid off some employees, but the company remains rich with talent. It promotes and co-promotes more current male world champions than any other company. Christian Mabili, Yanni Bekalim Kanalai, Xander Zayas, Abdullah Mason, Raymond Murataya, Emmanuel Navarrete, Oshaki Foster, Rafael Espinoza, Bruce Carrington, and Angelo Leo. It also promotes several other noteworthy fighters, including lightweight champion and current junior welterweight contender Keyshawn Davis, Emiliano Vargas, the reigning prospect of the year, former welterweight champion Brian Norman Jr., heavyweight up-and-comer Richard Torres, junior welterweight mandatory challenger Lindolfo Delgado, welterweight contender Rohan Polanco, and many others. Asserting what I say here on the channel all the time, Top Rank is the gold standard, and even if they've been in a bad way for a few months, they're resilient. They have the experience and the know-how to traverse this tumultuous and ever-changing landscape. It would seem they're on the eve of landing back on their feet. Took them about 7 months to do it. If they can get 10 to 12 shows on DAZN and 10 to 12 more on the ESPN platform, while that would be a step down from the original 36 they were doing upon inking a deal with ESPN 24. 24 is still manageable because, remember, they have less fighters to accommodate, more specifically, less expensive fighters to accommodate now that Terence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez are not on the platform. Just for those three guys, you'd have to kick out in excess of $3 million per fight for an estimated 1 to 2 fights a year. You do a show for Terence, a show for Shakur, and another show for Teofimo, you could be in the hole in excess of $9 million doing a show for each. Tack on 2. Bear in mind, this is just for them. Could be another $18 million, not even counting what you have to pay their opponents and undercard fighters, other operational costs that not having those fighters on the platform under the banner anymore saves Top Rank money, as their fights were not always commercially viable. It wasn't Terence Crawford's fault that the PBC froze him out, and it wasn't Top Rank's fault either, but none of that made an Amir Khan pay-per-view or a Kell Brook pay-per-view commercially viable. It wasn't Top Rank's fault that Gervonta Davis would not give Shakur Stevenson the time of day, but at the end of the day, when you're paying one guy in the neighborhood of $3 million per fight, doing fights for that fighter takes a large chunk out of the annual budget. It's the same with Teofimo. Now, Top Rank still hosts one of the more strong and promising stables of young fighters in the sport right now, but these kids are a lot less expensive than the previous cycle. Abdullah Mason, Keyshawn Davis, they don't cost as much as those other guys did. Emiliano Vargas, Richard Torres, Yanni Beck, you name them. The cycle they've got right now really don't cost as much as the previous one. So even if moving forward they have a little less fight dates than they did before, they also have less expenses than they had before, so they can manage this. Still end up in a much, much stronger, more stable position than the PBC's been in the last 2 years, ever since their Showtime deal ended and they inked a new one with Amazon Prime, which is little more than a distribution deal. They're not getting any money from Amazon, just slots. So for anyone who may have been likening Top Rank's broadcast situation with the PBC's the last 7 months, not quite, not exactly. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Devin Haney pushes back on the Ring Podcast's comment, "We hate the sanctioning bodies." Devin Haney pushed back after the word hate was used to describe sanctioning bodies during a debate on the Ring Magazine podcast. The conversation featured Mike Coppinger, Max Kellerman, and veteran boxing journalist Doug Fisher discussing the role of boxing's governing bodies still play in the sport as new ideas, such as the proposed Zuffa belt, begin to enter the landscape. During the exchange, one remark cut through the discussion. The word hate, used to describe the sanctioning bodies, right. "We hate the sanctioning bodies," said Coppinger. The use of the word hate stood out because sanctioning bodies, despite the frequent criticism, remain the foundation of boxing's championship system. Haney responded by offering the fighter's perspective. "Just me as a fighter, we cannot say everyone hates the sanctioning bodies," Haney explained. "For many fighters," he said, "those titles are a target from the moment they enter the sport. As a young kid growing up, You want the IBF, you want the WBC, you want the WBO, you want the Ring Magazine belt, you want all the belts. Perhaps, but is that to say that the only real merit of the sanctioning bodies is their intrinsic value to a child who is still naive and unaware of how things really work within the sport? Haney made it clear he was not dismissing the arrival of new ideas in boxing, including the Zuffa Championship concept now being discussed, but also, I'm for the Zuffa belt and everything. Those are good, he said, but we cannot forget about these sanctioning bodies. The reason, Haney added, remains simple. As a fighter, you want to be recognized as an actual champion. The debate came as the panel discussed International Boxing Federation's stance regarding IBF Cruiserweight champion Jai Opataya and the possibility of fighters risking their titles by competing for rival promotional belts. What I deem unethical, because sanctioning bodies are intended to act as a buffer between the promotional outfits and the fighters, an impartial party that can establish a pecking order in the sport. So what happens when the sanctioning bodies start acting like they're the promoters? It really shouldn't make a difference to the IBF or any other sanctioning body who promotes a fighter, because promoting isn't your racket. Ranking fighters and sanctioning fights is your racket, establishing a pecking order and crowning champions, giving fighters the opportunity to become champions, not promotion. So that if a sanctioning body starts taking sides and starts acting like a promoter themselves, then it defeats the purpose of even having them, because they are intended to be impartial. The fighters, the fans, they got a love-hate relationship with the sanctioning bodies that I liken to a relative you don't get along with, a relative you love, a relative that's part of the family, but a relative you don't necessarily see eye to eye with. Devin Haney, having been an undisputed champion at one weight and a champion overall in 3, of course he can see the intrinsic value in the alphabet titles and what they mean to the fighters and what they mean to do for the sport. But the sanctioning body's got a job to do, just like everybody else in the industry, and the problem is they don't always do it. Look at what's happening with Rowley at 147. He's got a mandatory challenger in the queue who's been waiting a long time, and instead of forcing the fight, what they're letting him do is go unify with Devin. We all know why. Because Shakram Giyasov ain't got the same marquee value as a Devin Haney. But is that how a sanctioning body should decide what course of action to take? How much longer are you going to make that fighter wait? Because it's already past the point where it's unethical. Now it's just abuse. You're abusing your power. So that if some other interested party with a lot of means and a lot of money wants to come into the space and offer up an alternative, as far as I'm concerned, they're welcome to do so, and we'll see if it works, because things have been imperfect in the sport of boxing for a long time, long before Zuffa got here. It's not that belts don't matter. It's that they have a job to do like everybody else in the industry, and they don't always do it. So if you're not going to do it, what do we need you for? Why should fighters kick out sanctioning fees to you guys to climb up your ranks if when they do, you're not going to hold up your end of the bargain, you're not going to do your job? Then what's the point?